Hi everybody, I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Cameron, and today we're going to show you how to take a new piece of wood and make it look old.
Okay, some of the tools we're going to be using today is an awl. We've got some sanding blocks, some screws, a couple of chisels, any kind of saw will work. We've got a disc grinder and we have a hammer. What I'm going to be using for this is a grinder with a flat sanding disc on it. It works really great, it's really fast, very aggressive. I'll show you how to use it.
So the next step would be to make wormholes, which is what the hammer and the awl is for. So what I like to do, I just kind of hit it in a little bit for the big wormholes. And then since they're different sizes in real life, I just kind of poke it with the awl. These wormholes are strategic and scientifically placed.
In addition to the wormholes, there's also worm trails that you see a lot in salvaged wood. And what I like to do for that is take a ball nose bit, or you could even use a drill bit and put it in a rotary tool. The craters run with the grain of the wood, so you kind of do your squigglies in the way of the wood grain.
Now I'm going to show you how to replicate the damage that an old piece of wood would go through. So what you can use, hammer and a bunch of different sizes of screws, it doesn't really matter. You lay the screw down and you kind of just tap it. And you can't see it very much before it's the wood stained, but once it is stained, it shows up a lot.
The next step, and it's one of the most important steps, is to replicate the edges of the wood, in that if it was used as a countertop over a period of like 100 years, it would have wear on the sides. And we can get that with sandpaper. And you can do that by hand, and I'm gonna show how to do it by hand, but I'm also gonna show how to do it a little quicker with a sander. Next thing we want to show is how to replicate hand-hewn marks. And hand-hewn marks are where, when the log used to be out in the forest, they would actually saw down to a point, and then they would use a chisel, like an axe chisel, to get down to those marks. And those marks were still apparent on the board. So those are really easy to replicate with any kind of blade of a saw or a sawzall. So I'm going to use the saw blade tip to just put some score marks across the wood. It doesn't have to go all the way, but just some randomly placed lines. They do a lot when the stain goes on there. And you can also use a sawzall to do a more aggressive blade, but this will give the effect we're looking for.
So another thing you can do to distress wood even more is on the ends of the end grain on a piece of wood, you get a saw, it doesn't matter what kind, and you just put it on and you drag it down and it replicates split ends.
Okay, now the board, after we've rounded off the edges and sanded them, is starting to look a lot more weathered. I've really made sure that I get the corners really good, because over the years things would rub up against them. Now the next step, after we've done some even wear across the whole thing, is to actually put a little bit more damage that would happen across the edges. And for that, we're going to use a chisel.
The next step is to make there be no sharp edges on it. Like where we did the wormholes, it's a little jagged still, but that makes it look really fake and not like it's worn. So you just have to go over a few layers, and it takes off a lot of it. Now for the finish, I'm gonna use gel stain because it makes it really easy to replicate an old finish.
Okay, so we've showed a lot of the techniques on one board, and you can kind of see all the different places when the stain goes on there, how much it pulls it out. There's one final thing that I like to do before I put a clear sealant on it, and that's basically taking sandpaper and kind of basically going over and simulating a little bit of wear. And you can actually take off some of the stain and create a whole nother wear pattern, especially on the corners. There's places that the stain would not be as strong. Here we go. Okay, that covers it for how to make new wood look old. Be sure to let us know if you have any questions or comments.
And like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, because we have a lot more like this to come.
A lot.